Hey there, and thanks for joining. My name is Dr. Chris Albert, and I'm glad you're here. If you're watching this video, you're probably watching it from within the Turning Points leadership community. This month, our focus is on mastery. And so I wanted to take a few minutes to just share with you kind of an overview of what you're going to be looking at this month and what we'll be talking about together within the community. So let me read to you just a short excerpt from George Leonard's book, Mastery: The Keys to Success and Long-Term Fulfillment. So he says, what is mastery? It resists definition, yet can be instantly recognized. It comes in many varieties, yet follows certain unchanging laws. It brings rich rewards, yet is not really a goal or a destination, but rather a process, a journey. We call this journey mastery. And we tend to assume that it requires a special ticket available only to those born with exceptional abilities. But mastery isn't reserved for the super talented, or even for those who are fortunate enough to have gotten an early start. It's available to anyone who is willing to get on the path and stay on it, regardless of age, gender, or previous experience. That's how George Leonard defines mastery. Well, this month, we're going to be taking a look at mastery, what it is, how you achieve it, and the stumbling blocks along the way. So let me just show you first. I'm going to share with you my screen, and I'd like to share with you the levels of mastery and just kind of give you an example. So the big thing to remember is that we all start as a beginner. No matter what, when we start something new, we're a beginner. I remember when I first started coaching, and I was doing my practice coaching, I was expecting myself to have competence. I was expecting myself to be competent at this coaching thing. And I had to remember to tell myself, Chris, you're new at this. You're just learning. You're a beginner. And so through the last 10 years, I moved from beginner to advanced beginner to competent. Competent really came, I think, at the end of my coaching training. And I reached competence about the time that I was submitting my tapes at the time, my tapes or my recordings for my certification. So I had to show competence. And then there's expert, and then there's master. And so mastery comes when you are able to take what it is that you know, this body of knowledge and these skills, the skills and your dispositions, and actually take them and apply them and create new ways to use them and new ways to synthesize them in different places, with different people, creating new frameworks and new models for practice. That's the level of mastery. So let's look at a couple other examples. I'm not a great cook, okay, but I am competent. When I was a beginner, I remember taking spaghetti and putting it in water and then turning on the heat. Well, if you know anything about cooking spaghetti, you know that it came out in a clump, because when you are at least an advanced beginner, you learn that you have to heat the water up before you put the noodles in, right? And then you work along the way. And by the time you reach a master, you are probably making your own sauce, making your own pasta, creating your own flavors, right? Different levels to mastery. But we all start as beginners at something. Back 30 years ago or so, I learned to play golf. I started as a beginner. I started with 10 to 15 pennies in one pocket, and every time I hit the ball, I would move a penny to the other pocket. And what was I doing? I was keeping track of my score, right? So I was actually keeping track of my score because I was a beginner. I couldn't keep track of my score, 10, 11, 12 shots to get to the green. and keep track of what club I was supposed to use because they were numbered, right? And what hole I was on and everything else. Too many numbers as a beginner. I am not a master. I don't have any intention of becoming a master, nor do I have any intention of becoming an expert. But I'm happy right now that I'm pretty competent and I'm working on getting more so as I go along. Another example. Okay, bike riding, right? We learn to ride a bike, many of us, when we're children. If we had the privilege of having a bike and having a place to ride, many of us learned how to ride a bike. We were beginners. We started with training wheels, right? And eventually went to a two-wheeler, and then eventually without the training wheels. And then we eventually got better and better and better at riding. And now there are experts. And the ones that have mastered the sport, they're out there doing the, what's it called? You know, the one in France, right? The bike ride in France. I can't believe that I can't remember the name. Anyway, oh, the Tour de France. Yes, those folks are masters. So keep in mind, no matter what you do, you might be an expert at something. You might be a beginner at something else. You might be a master at something else. So I'll use myself as an example. I don't know how to knit, but if I were going to learn how to knit, I would start as a beginner. Actually, maybe, no, I think I'd started as a beginner. Even though I knitted when I was a kid, I'd be starting all out from scratch, right? As a coach, I am a master. As a bike rider, I'm competent. I wouldn't say I'm expert. As a golfer, I'm competent. I'm not an expert. As a cook, I'm competent, not an expert. But how many times do we expect ourselves to be an expert at something when we've just gotten started? So this month, we're talking all about the levels of mastery, how we can move ourselves through the levels of mastery, what holds us back from mastering the things we want most of all, and the intricacies of all that. So I look forward to sharing this with you as we go through the month of July 2022, and we will see you online on the boards. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here today. And yes, from now on, I will not forget the Tour de France. I am not a master, but those guys are masters of the cycling. So again, kind of silly. Thanks again for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Take care now.